Hello everyone, this is Sprinkles, aka Xander, aka Ian, whatever you know me by. Um, I haven't made a video in a long time, so I've been thinking of this idea for a while, just ranking all the RGG games. I have not played all of them, just a disclaimer. Um, I may need some assistance on ranking these, uh, as of the ones I haven't played. I have friends that have played some of the other ones, and I have a simple understanding of the ones I have not played. So I'll just try to rank them as I can, I guess. But I kind of sorted them before, just so that we could get a better idea of where we're gonna go. So I've pretty much played this top row. I've played every single one of these games. Um, and then these ones on the bottom are remasters or from different series. So I haven't played those really. Um, Starting with Zero, this game is the perfect entry point for the Yakuza series. If this was not the starting point, I believe the series would be not as successful. Everything about the game is great. There are a few points where it falls off, such as I feel like the pacing in the middle of the story is a little odd, and there is, I feel like, a lot of restrictions on stuff, and the sub stories aren't that amazing in my opinion. Now, know this, I have not done all of the sub stories for any game except for Gaiden because it's a shorter game. So by nature, I believe that it would be, easier to do all the sub stories, but we'll get to that later. Um, Basically, I feel like Zero had it felt bland to say the least. It felt extremely bland and kind of more comedic stuff, and I mean that is kind of how the sub stories are in all the games, but I feel like that's where it fell short in terms of it, and I can't say a lot of that because I haven't done all the side content in the game, but it's also kind of tedious in the way you get level up some of the styles or all the styles per se. Like it wasn't very fun doing that, but um, talking about the story, it's amazing. I love Kiryu's, but Majima's is even better. I think everyone agrees on that. Um, Kiryu just doesn't get he doesn't get the better story in this game, and he doesn't really get the better story in some of the other games where you play as multiple people. So that is a definitely a big thing. But Majima's was by far so much better. But both of the stories, the way they intertwine was amazing. The music is easily probably top three to top five in the whole series. It's amazing. I think it's kind of obvious, and everyone loves this game. I'll tell you right now, most people will tell you that it's probably the best overall, and that's why I'm gonna put it in S. I don't think it's the best right now, but we'll get to that later. On to Kiwami 1. This game was a pain. It's a good game, not a great game, and I think a big factor of that is the story. And it's a shame because it has good characters. They introduced Date, Haruka, Nishiki, some other ones that I'm probably forgetting. The florist, he's pretty cool. And I like Nishiki. He's one of my favorite antagonists and characters in general in the series, but they really butchered the story to make him an even greater. They had the chance to make him an even greater character. And I know it's a remaster of the original Yakuza game. We're talking 2005, 2006, whenever the first Yakuza game came out, before I was thought of, right? Um, or around the time I was born. But basically, the storytelling is still really good, but compared to the other ones, it's definitely probably on a bottom tier, sadly. The music is pretty good. It's definitely not up to par with Zero, um, but it's definitely worth mentioning. It has a good soundtrack, and the combat is pretty much Zero, just more refined. And that may be hard to believe for some people because it's the same thing, right? Well, I thought the skill tree was better because I was very tired of having to. I don't know. I thought the money aspect of it in Zero was hit or miss because you could have cheesed it or you could have just, you know, um, gone straight up and done a money glitch or something like that and then got whatever you wanted. But the level up system was kind of just a constant yes in the way that it was, consistent and good. Um, but all around, I think it's one of the, in terms of like quality, I would put it on a lower tier. That's why I'm going to give it B. Good game, not a great game. Yakuza Kiwami 2. This game for me was an interesting experience because it is the first Dragon Engine game I played. I played 0 through 7, right? So obviously this was, you know, the jump from the Kiwami or Zero engine or 5 or not 5, sorry. Whatever the Kiwami 1 and, 0 engine was, jumping to Dragon Engine. Um, it was a little weird. The combat was a little odd feeling it being more smooth, but I still really enjoyed it. Um, Mind that I kind of rushed through, not rushed, but I didn't take my time really for most of these games because I wanted to get to the next one. So I was always kind of like at the average level or under because I didn't really take time to do sub stories for most of the games, like I said. But I believe Kiwami 2 is a great game. The music is not great. Um, I found Kiwami 2 to be the most underwhelming soundtrack. It does have a few good ones, but not compared to all the other games. I'm sorry, it really isn't that great. Um, Not to say though that the story is very good. I like the story, and a big factor why I wouldn't put it lower in my ranking is because of the Majima saga. That was amazing. It was very short, but playing it after Kiwami 2 was just so relaxing, relieving, and just eye-opening to what Majima was doing. We see him in these games after Zero. We see him a little bit, or maybe we see him a lot, like in Kiwami 1, or he's in 2 quite a bit in the main story. He's in 3. After that, he kind of like goes down in terms of how long we see him. But just the whole story for that, even if it wasn't long, it was great. The boss fight was amazing. The final boss. Um, the story of it was good. I just think it was all round good. So that definitely bumped up Kiwami 2 for me. I don't think it's quite S tier, but it is good. I like Ryuji as the main villain. I thought he was very cool. Um, but there were some parts of it that were very not memorable compared to other game stories. So I just want to put that out there. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Okay, Yakuza 3. Some people, a lot of people, I should say a majority of people, think this game is the worst out of the mainline games, and that is understandable. As some other people in the community and even videos I've seen, the graphics are an eyesore, alright? Even for the remaster, it's not really remastered by that much. It's no Kiwami, that's for sure. When you look at Yakuza 2 and Yakuza Kiwami 2 comparison, I'm sure there's a video on YouTube. It is it's eye-opening. You could show anyone that hasn't even played the series, they will be like, "Holy shit, that's awesome." But with the 3, 4, and 5 remasters, it's just more so that they could, I feel like, play on modern consoles, and that's fine. Do we need a Kiwami 3, 4, and 5? No, we don't. And if someone tells you otherwise, well, they're not getting the bigger picture. Now, would it be nice to be getting a Kiwami 3, 4, and 5? Yes. Would I play them? Yes. Would I buy them for $40? Sure. $50? Probably. I mean, they are pretty big games. But we need them is the real question. And I think Kiwami Kiwami 3 would be obviously the most needed one and it would make the most sense. But I don't think we really need it, just to get that out of the way. But 3's story is a hidden gem compared to some of the other games. It's so I think people think the story's fine, but I think the story is really good if you pay attention. Obviously, we know that there's that 15-minute cutscene with the fat guy talking about how the beach where the orphanage is either going to be a water park or a military base. I don't remember the exact, details on that. We all know that was pretty excessive, but I just loved the characters. I love Mine. He's probably my favorite antagonist in the mainline Yakuza series. Um, he's really badass. Great boss fight. Anyways, the music in this game is also a hidden gem. I feel like everything about this game is um, underrated, except the graphics, because that's obvious that they're pretty dog shit. But besides that, I would put it in A tier. There's more um, conversation needed for some of those, but or some of that topic on Yakuza 3, but I think for now that's good enough. Yakuza 4, this is a special one for me because, I mean, I just really think that after playing Zero, you have 3 games where you only play as Kiryu in the main story. And I won't lie, it gets a little exhausting, especially because from Zero, you're used to switching, right? Every 2 or 3 chapters, I don't really remember exactly, but you're used to switching. So it gets a little tiring playing Kiryu the whole time, especially because they have similar move sets. Um, although from 1, 2, and 3, they're all on different engines, interestingly enough. Uh, but the combat still kind of feels Kiryu, you know? And Yakuza 4 completely wiped that off the slate. This is the first ever Yakuza game released that had uh, or multiple playable characters besides Kiryu. So first you play as Akiyama, second you play as Saejima, I believe, and then third Tanamura. Fourth you play as Kiryu. And although Kiryu is on the cover, he's like in the front of everyone, as you can see, he's really in the back because his story is the way his character fits into the story is not, it's not a big thing. And I think Saejima would probably have the biggest part of the story. Akiyama and then Tanamura and then Kiryu in the back. But um, it was a very eye-opening story, and a lot of people think that the main plot, where Saejima went into the ramen shop and quote unquote killed 18 people. Spoiler alert, he didn't kill them because he shot them with rubber fucking bullets that explode marinara sauce on their bodies apparently, because you see some sort of liquid as if it's blood. I don't know. I'm just saying RGG, like, it's kind of a weird thing to do, but the rubber bullets plot, if it wasn't spoiled for you, you were probably like, what the fuck? But looking back on it, it's easier to make fun of it because of how ridiculous it is. But I think for people that don't expect it, or just, they're really in the story, it is very um interesting. It's a very uh good story. It's one of the more complicated stories, not as much as 5. We'll get to that later, but the story is very good. The music is also, just like Zero, one of the best in the entire series, arguably. And the best thing about 4, though, is the characters. Every character has something special about them, and something that just holds true to the Yakuza series as a whole. And I think that's very special because um, they all leave their own footprint in the series. Even Tanamura, which um, they don't really mention him in future games, sadly. Um, I feel like he does leave an impact on the characters themselves, um, even if he's not referenced in the future. So, with all that being said, it is one of my favorites. Um, I used to say this was my favorite, but it does have problems. Graphics are kind of one of them. They're not as bad as 3, definitely not as bad as 3, but they're still kind of down there. The gameplay is not as clunky, and you have more freedom because there's, 4 people you could play as. Um, but it's, very, uh, I don't know how I would say it. It still feels a little bit bland in the gameplay category because it's on the older engine. But all around, I really want to put this at S because, it's one of my favorites, but I'm not gonna let bias get in the way of it. But I will say it is A tier, probably above Kiwami 2 and Yakuza 3. And I guess take it for what you see. These rankings, they don't matter too much, but I do believe that 4 is better than these two. So there's that. Next we have Yakuza 5. This game almost made me quit the series. You may be like, what the hell are you talking about? This game is amazing. First off, I believe this is the most overrated game in the series. People praise this game so much. Is the praise well deserved? Maybe. But I just think that some parts of the game are so tiring. I quit the game for a month. I played the series about last year. I started it last year in July, I believe, with Zero. And at the point of me being on 5, I was maybe in late November, and I quit for a month because I couldn't do, it was just so tiring in Saijuma's section, especially after where you have to hunt the bear and stuff. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've played the game all the way through. It's frustrating. It's not fun unless you really like all the side content. If you did like it, I have nothing against you, but it was not for me, and it's not for a lot of other people it played through the game. So it's definitely a problem. Some of the chapters feel out of place, and a lot of people's complaints of this game would be Haruka's section. I actually think hers is better than Shinada's. She doesn't fight, but she has so much more to do with the story, in my opinion, than Shinada. And sadly, Akiyama in this game is very watered down. They kind of threw him to the side in place of a new character, being Shinada. And I didn't like that because Akiyama is one of my favorite characters. He's my favorite in 4 to play as. So it was kind of a slap in the face when they, made Haruka and Akiyama's chapters combined into 4, when they gave Saejima, Kiryu, and Shinada 4 alone, which kind of frustrated me. But let's move on to the story. The story for this game is the most complicated. I don't know if I said that already. It's so complicated, it's hard to follow, it's confusing. Why is the final boss? Spoiler alert, it's Aizawa. What the fuck? No one saw that coming. Okay, well, we fought him once as Kiryu. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially if you're someone that's not paying attention to every single little letter of dialogue. And I do pay attention to most of the dialogue. So I just found myself being like, why is this happening? How is this guy here? You know, why did this person do this? It felt like I was running in circles in the story, and the fact that not every playable character left a big imprint on it, was just kind of underwhelming to me, such as Akiyama, like I said before. Saejima as well. In 4, he was the most impactful character by far. In 5, we don't have a lot to work with how he's impactful to the main story. Does he do stuff in the main story? Yes, but not very impactful. As for the music, it's good, not great as some of the other ones. It does have really good soundtracks though. Um, Not as low as Kiwami 2, I'd say, but I would put it I would put it in the middle probably for music wise. Overall, it's a good game, but it is better than Kiwami in my opinion. I'm a little torn on putting it between A and B because I know that I don't like it that much, but I'm gonna say it's probably right here. A lot of people are probably gonna be mad. I understand that. Um, but that's just what I think personally. Alright, Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. This game, I walked into it thinking it was gonna be shit. I did not have any expectations for that game being good at all. And I walked out of the game thinking it was great. It's a very good game, and a lot of people don't realize that. Now, it's not all action-esque. It has more of a family element like 3 did, and I think 3 did that very well. But with 6, it really feels like you're tying up Kiryu's saga. Spoiler alert, his saga is not over. But um, I really liked the way they treated him in this game. I really liked the characters. I did not like the final boss, sadly. Um, no one likes the final boss, but it wasn't even like there was not very good things about it as well, like just the way it was. I guess it was a little awesome, but the music is really good. This oh my gosh, forgive me, I can't remember the music name for the final boss, but it was not the most amazing final boss theme out there. And the moveset for the final boss, he wasn't hard, right? He's not really a final boss. So yeah, I don't know. The story was really good though. Underrated for sure. The combat is very fun. I like the way that the heat was in orbs rather than bars, and then you could use them to do the crazy moves where you like break their jaw with your foot or with a punch or something. That was really awesome. The combat engine was a little iffy because, it's the first game where Dragon Engine was a thing, I believe. And there's a lot of weird glitches with the ragdolls that I have experienced, and many other people can share that, experience. It's very, you know, obvious gameplay wise, some of the problems. But um, all around, I think it is a great game. And after doing a lot of thinking, I believe that it's about A tier. I want to put it above Kiwami 2, but I'm not sure. I'm gonna say it's about right here, but it's definitely debatable which one's better in my opinion. Some people will probably say, well, Kiwami 2 is 10 times better. And you know what? That's fine. I can understand that, but I personally think that they're about head to head. Um, Now moving on to Yakuza 7, or also known as Yakuza Like a Dragon, or Like a Dragon 7, however you want to call it. This game has divided the lovers of the series because of the RPG elements, the turn-based combat. And when I first played the game, I was a little, I mean, I just felt it definitely feels different. You're in a party, you're not by yourself, you're fighting with other people actively, you're controlling them, kind of. So at first I was a little hesitant to really dip my toes into that, but um, I think 7 is, it just blew my mind like completely. The combat is really fun once you really, get to, even at the beginner levels, the combat is really fun. After you have a few abilities in your arsenal and you're able to use them in so much different situations, it's awesome. It's so good. The turn-based combat it's a big refresher too to people that aren't good at beat 'em up style combat. You can sit back and relax when you're playing this game. You still have to strategize in your mind. What guy am I going to attack? How am I going to attack this guy? You have to take resistances into account, gear, armor, but all of that was just so amazing to me. The story is easily a top three. It's, in my opinion, the best story out of the whole mainline series. It's so good. The characters are so good. The music is amazing, easily on the level of 0 and 4, if not better. It does so much things right, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so excited for Yakuza 8, or also known as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm just so amazed by the idea that Ryuga Gotoku Studios could really make their franchise into a beat 'em up styled game to a full turn-based RPG um, uh, kind of game without changing the story a lot. I do believe that you should play the other games before 7, but if you really can't get into them, 7, I guess, would be a decent starting point, although you won't know who some people are, why they're important. The game won't be as special to you, but for the most part, I think that 7 is just groundbreaking um, in terms of it being innovative, accessible, and um, just so fun. The game is so fun. Even if it's turn-based, it still lets you interact with the combat by, pressing a button for guarding, which I'm not very good at, but you should always try doing it. Um, Spamming a button or timing a button right to do the most amount of damage possible might mean the difference between life or death in a fight. And some fights in that game are really, really difficult. It's not a joke. If you aren't leveled up, if you don't have the right gear or right job for the battle, you are going to struggle and you are going to die. So it's a matter of grinding, which a lot of people don't like, to uh, progress to the story or beat something that you haven't beat before. I think that's the main problem. That's one of the, downsides of the game is you have to grind a lot. And it incentivizes you to do certain things, such as the Sotenbori Battle Arena, um, for money and gear and XP grinding. Or if you want to be more on the money side, there is the Ichiban Confections minigame, where you buy and sell properties, organize your workers. I personally maxed that out twice. I've played the game twice. This is the only game that I've replayed. Um, that just maybe tells you how good it is. It's great. I really was hesitant to put it in the, you know, my number one spot, but after all this thinking, I really do love the game, and I think a lot of people do cherish the story, um, which is really good because I think that it deserves all the praise that it gets. So with that being said, I want to put it in S tier, top of the line. It's a great game. Um, Next we have Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, or Yakuza 6.5 for, the technicalities of it. This game is really weird because it ranges in a lot of different time areas. You jump between the events of 7 to during the events of 7, which was unexpected, to, you know, more events of 7 to after the events of 7. So I can't really figure out, where I would put it in the timeline, but it stretches along a big part, you know. And this game is the most recent game. I finished this about 2 weeks ago. I pre-ordered it. I was ready to play this game, right? This is the last game in the mainline Yakuza series that will be a beat 'em up combat style, Everything else is going to be turn-based besides Judgment if they make another Judgment game. And I hope they do. A lot of people hope they do. But that being said, this game swept me under the rug. I didn't expect much of it. The story is short, but there are chapters, such as chapter 2, where I believed it was very long and there's a lot of meat compared to fat. And some Yakuza games like Kiwami 1 would be the best example, is a game where there is fat on a lot of the bone compared to meat. This game was a lot of meat. A lot. The story, there was really not a boring part of the story. You're always engaged the whole time. You're always excited to see what's next for Kiryu. And the combat is amazing. It is one of the best. I think the only thing that really parallels it would be Lost Judgment, which combat is just, um, I think everyone knows. If you've played Lost Judgment, you know the combat is so fun. There's 4 fighting styles. It's amazing. Um, but with that being said, it's very, it's all around a great game. Now, it is short though. It is very short. Like I said, uh, you know, the it goes through pretty fast. If you're someone that rushes to the story, doesn't do a lot of side content, this game could probably be like 14, 15 hours or less, really to get all of my bearings of the game. I did almost everything. I mean, I did all the sub stories. I did all the main story, obviously. I did, or I have all the upgrades for Kiryu. And I did beat the two Ammon family members that are in the game. So I did do a lot. Now I don't have 100% completion because most of that would be, oh, do pool in the bar for all difficulties. No one wants to do that. I mean, unless you're a completionist. I didn't want to do it, so I'm done with most of the game, not all of it, but at least the meat on the bone, I have that all done, and it's amazing. I took my time with the game, which is also a nice refresher. So I believe I have a better opinion and say on it because I played so much of the game. So I feel like you can rank it pretty well here. And the music is just wow. It is really damn good. The soundtrack is not as big as some of the, other main games, but it's still very good. There's a lot of good soundtracks on um, that for that game. Going back to the combat, it is so fun, and there's so much stuff you could do with it too. I feel like it's very diverse with the agent style and the Yakuza style. They're completely different. You use them for different scenarios, and there's just like it's very fun. They're both really fun, which is something where I believe Lost Judgment didn't have. Like the boxing style wasn't that fun. It was very tedious to level up anyways, but like the tiger style in Lost Judgment isn't as fun as Viper or Crane because it's not as flashy, but they all had their uses still, which I will talk about later when I get there. But overall, I think that it's just amazing. It's an amazing game, and I just did not expect it at all. So I have to put it in A tier for what it is. It was a well worth $50, and um, I can't say enough how much I really love the game. It's just great. Moving on to Ishin, or Like a Dragon Ishin more specifically, which came out this February. Um, there is there's a lot to say about this game, but I will start out by saying that it's a great game. That's for sure. It's a great game. I really didn't like it, or I really did like it, sorry, but I recommend for anyone that has played it or that has not played it for the first time, do about the hard difficulty, because from my understanding, there is about 5 difficulties in this game, but there's 4 that are accessible to you in the start, and I chose Legend, and I've played almost every Yakuza game there is, and this game was hard. I mean, it was hard. The main problem with this game for me is the grinding. The gear is not fun to get. The dungeons are fun, yes, but I don't like rinsing and repeating them over and over again. It's just not that fun. And it's a problem for sure having to get these game-breaking weapons to help you really beat some of the bosses when you do like no damage. Like I had to rely on a sword that I got like midway through the game because it already took me a long time to craft it. And you could look up, you know, where to get these crafting materials, but it's very tedious. That is a big problem. But besides that, the story is really good. The characters are really good, and I like how they brought faces this goes for the original Ishin too. I really like how they brought faces from past games into Ishin to play as the characters. Um, and I thought the original Ishin had a lot of characters from 3, 4, and 5, or even the originals, Yakuza 1 and 2. But with the new Ishin, the remake, um, they bring a lot of characters from 7, which I actually liked a lot. And then some characters from 0 as well, which it was kind of hit or miss because of the final boss, which I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played, but it's a familiar face, and it's a little underwhelming because you're thinking like, oh, this is some guy from another game, and but that's what you think for a lot of times. It's hard to really call a character by their name in Ishin because you know them so well as, someone else from another title or titles. There's major characters from Yakuza. There's, Majima, Saijima. I mean, Kiryu's the main character, but his name is not Kiryu. So, that's a problem for some people, not me. But the story is really good, and the music is very good. It's probably, I'd say it's on a more higher tier than average. I don't know if it's up there with 0 and 7, but it is a really good soundtrack for sure. And they made new soundtracks for this game as well. For I believe Mine in one of the training fights, they did a remix of Fly. For Akiyama, they did a remix of Affected Fight, if that's what his theme is called in 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's very it's very good. That's all I have to say about it really. And there's not a whole lot to say about the game. The side content is really good as well. I have to say that. The characters, if I didn't say this already, they're pretty good. And one character in particular that sets himself apart from his actual character in Yakuza would be Nishiki. I can't remember his name in Ishin. I think it's Okada Izo. I like how he's so much more different than Nishiki. They do have a kind of a rivalry, but it's different. And I just like how he's so much more like, malicious with no, not a lot of redeeming qualities compared to Nishiki and Kiwami 1. So overall, I'm gonna put it at A tier, but I'll probably put it right here. Oh, also not to mention, the combat is really good, but it's very tedious to level up, and I wasn't a big fan of that, so there's that. Next we have Judgment, which majority people that have played the Yakuza series have not played Judgment and Lost Judgment. Although they are different, they are very similar. They're in the same universe, we already know that. They're on the same maps. We're in Kamurocho, uh, we're in Yokohama for Lost Judgment and Kamurocho as well. But the the whole idea of Judgment is that you're a detective. You're not no organized crime goon like Kiryu. You're a detective who used to be a lawyer, and I really like it. And what's really different about it is the pacing of the story is much slower than the mainline Yakuza games. If you think that's good or bad, that's up to you. But this is one thing I have to say. You will get tons of hours out of both these games. The content is like a chunky size Yakuza game. Like, there's some games that aren't as chunky size. Like, I feel like, Yakuza 3, Yakuza 6, maybe like even Kiwami 1 wasn't as chunky. But Judgment feels like as chunky as 7, 0, 5. Like it's very big. There's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of skills and stuff like that to get. And I like the idea that you like have investigative stuff going on compared to uh, just fighting the whole time. There's tailing missions where you're following people without getting caught. That's new. Um, there's more stuff like that in Lost Judgment, not as much in the original judge or the normal Judgment, but we'll get to Lost Judgment later, obviously. I thought Judgment's story is it's really good. The final boss is amazing, one of my top three villains in the whole series. Um, it's just a very good game. The music is really good. It's almost on par with 0, 7, and 4 Gaiden, stuff like that. Judgment is really good. The characters are also, they don't miss. There's really not a bad character in Judgment that's not a major character. Um, so I thought that is really important to mention. The combat, you have two fighting styles. They are very fun. They're very different from Kiryu, which is why in the Dragon Engine it's so amazing. For its time, it was probably the best combat ever in any Yakuza game. So I think that is very, you know, worth mentioning. So with that being said, I'm gonna put Judgment about right. I'm gonna put it right here. It definitely deserves a higher A tier, um, being what it is. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's an amazing game for sure. Lost Judgment. Now, this game is also amazing. I'm not really set on where I'm going to put it right now, but this game is long. That's for one. It is longer than Judgment, if I can remember right. The story is a little bit confusing, like 5 is. You may be wondering, well, where is this guy going? Why is this guy doing this? Stuff like that. You really have to be paying attention a lot. And Yagami has a lot of dialogue in the game that you really need to pick out and make sure you're understanding, or else you may be confused about certain things. There are slow chapters, but they're still filled with stuff important to the story, or maybe fun boss fights or something like that. There's always something to keep you engaged, and a big part of that is the side content. You can have a skateboard in this game, a skateboard, or if you buy it on PC, you get a hoverboard. How does that sound? Because to me, it sounds pretty damn fun, and I enjoyed a lot of the side. I didn't do all the side content, but I definitely did more content in this game compared to some of the other mainline series favorites. And I just think it's an amazing game. The story is very good. Like I said, it's a little bit confusing, but it's very well fleshed out. The characters are great. The antagonists are very good in this game because unlike others, there's not really a main antagonist. There's a lot of people that are, you know, uh, thought out of along the way in the story. There's a lot of obstacles. Most notably, Akutsu I really like him. Then there's Soma, which is kind of like Akutsu's, higher up, but they're kind of on a different wavelength, so they feel like a different, you know, entity completely. And then there is Kuwana, you know, if you haven't played Lost Judgment, spoiler alert, he's the final boss and he's awesome. He's very different from other final bosses in the game because he's so, like, he has done horrible things, but he has such a better reason of doing it compared to other villains, and I think that's, very impactful. That's why people love him so much, because he's a bully hunter. He kills bullies, and a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well that's sick. Some people are like, no, that's fucked up. I'm kind of torn in between the two ideals of that, but regardless, characters are amazing. The music in this game is about the equivalent to Judgment. It has very good things that set it apart from other series, for sure. It has a very unique feel. It kind of takes it into techno a little bit, like what Seven did. Techno's music, or sorry, Seven's music seems a lot more techno and rock-esque, and Lost Judgment did that, but they included like opera, techno, and rock all at once. Perfect example, Final Boss. That music is just it's different from anything else I've heard before. So it is very unique in that way. So I am going to say Lost Judgment is an S. It's definitely debatable on it being the top of A or the bottom of S, but that's all I could really say for now. I have only played it once, like I've only played all the other ones once, except for 7, which I mentioned earlier. So, you know, but that is definitely a game where you can go into it and milk it for easily like, a good 40, 50 hours and have so much fun. And it's so much worth the price, in my opinion. Unlike next on this list, which is not worth the price, it's good, but it's not worth the price, the Kaido Files, which is a Lost Judgment DLC. But it kind of sets itself apart as a different game, not as much as Gaiden does, because it is an actual different game. But the Kaido Files is a unique experience. I think that Kaido is one of the best characters in the whole franchise, right? He's so important in Judgment and Lost Judgment, especially Judgment, where, the story would be different without him. And the Kaido Files really shows a backstory that may be unneeded, but it's awesome regardless. Story wise, it's pretty good. The boss fights are really good. The combat is so fun, and the music is very good. The problem with this, though, is you're paying $30 for 5 to 10 hours of content max. And just to spit in your face, Sega said no New Game Plus. And this is a problem I want to bring up at the end of the video that is just, it's starting to become a really big issue for the future of the series. So I'm just going to leave that there, but it's not worth the price. I would only get it on sale. $20 is a little bit much, 15 is probably a good range. It's still good, don't get me wrong, but if I had to rank it without talking about um, the length of it, I'd still put it about right here. Or maybe like, I guess right here. It's just hard to say because it's not, it's like a fraction of some of these games' lengths. So actually, I'm just gonna put it in the back here, and I really did enjoy the Kaido Files, but um, it just doesn't deserve to be above even Kiwami, which is really not one of my favorites. Um, Streets of Kamurocho. This game is very odd. It's just kind of an arcadey, anniversary thing that RGG put out for the players for free. You could get it on Steam right now. Um, you could just search up the link and, it'll be added to your Steam library. But beware, it does not play well on keyboard or mouse or controller really. The controls are confusing, unfun, the combat is eh. It's not, no, it's dog shit in my opinion. It's a dog shit game. So that's what I have to say about it. I have not played these games. I've not played Dead Souls, although I really want to. I've not played Fist of the North Star. I won't ever play it because it's not Yakuza related. This is just another RGG game like Binary Domain, which I will never, I'll never play that. The original Ishin I will never play because I played the remake. Kenzin I do want to play. really bad. But I don't see me ever getting to play that game. Uh, don't kill me if I butcher this, but Kurohu, I believe it is, 1 and 2. I do want to play those because I hear the story's amazing, the characters are good, music's good, so I might make, a future video after I played them. I doubt it, but um, I don't know. I'll have to get a something where I could port it to my PC or phone maybe. The original Yakuza 1 and 2 I'll probably never play because they're hard to get, and I've already played the same story in Kiwami 1 and 2, so, RGG Online I will never play because it looks like dog shit, and then we already talked about those. So that's about it. Going back to the New Game Plus problem, for anyone that's watching this video or made it this far in the video, um, New Game Plus, for people that don't know about the series or do know about the series but haven't replayed any of the games, New Game Plus is where you start the game over again. You're replaying the story, but you keep all your stats or most of your, progress. Like, mini game stuff might not save over like in 7, but all your gear, uh, or sorry, not all your gear, like your level and like jobs will save over so that you know, you'll just be able to play the game but with more power. And people like, playing it on a normal difficulty for their first playthrough, and then they do New Game Plus on a harder difficulty, and they have more, stuff from their previous, playthrough to keep the combat scaling. So it's more fun. You have more stuff up, up your sleeve for your fighting arsenal. Well, Sega is not a fan of keeping that in the base game anymore, even though it has been in the base game since it's been in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But in Japan, when 7 first released back in early 2019, I believe, they did not make New Game Plus free. They made it DLC, and this is a problem. A very, very big problem that not enough people are talking about, which is also another big problem, um, because Sega will not care if you don't yell at them. Anyways, there's no New Game Plus for Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. And it sucks because some people want to replay the game with the max stats and the max combat, even if it's short. That might be a bigger incentive. And the Kaido Files has no New Game Plus. That needs it more than Gaiden because there's not a lot of sub stories in the game, and it's harder to really get maxed out without grinding in that game before the final boss. And there's not a lot of like ways to get money. Like Gaiden also struggles with that. So that's one thing though. But when you make a mainline game, which is Yakuza 8, which is coming out in January, by the way, guys. Make sure to get your pre-orders in. It's going to be amazing. If you haven't played the demo, get Gaiden and play the demo for 8. It's fucking awesome. Um, it's going to be a great game. I already know that. I already know that Yakuza 8, or you may also know it as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, I already know it's going to be a good game. That's not my problem. I'm concerned that Sega is going to keep the New Game Plus behind the paywall because they already have it listed as DLC on their website and on the special editions or whatever. It's listed as the Master Vacation Bundle to disguise their greediness because they're little fucking mole rats that don't want to admit that they need their infinite wealth to keep their company running when that's not the truth. They already make enough money from fucking Sonic and all this other bullshit. Even this series, Like a Dragon, Yakuza, they make so much money off these games because it's been popularized in the West. And when you popularize a game in the West, your profits are going to go skyrocketing. That's exactly what happened. They've made profit in all these games. Even the games like Yakuza 3, they did a tiny little remaster, they slapped it on the Steam store, boom. They're already making thousands of dollars from a game that came out in 2008 with a tiny little remaster on it. That just shows you they don't need money for this stupid New Game Plus stuff. Why are you making Yakuza 8 New Game Plus locked behind a paywall when it's been in every other base game? Why? And because it's going to be more RPG turn-based like 7 was, that gives even more reason to not lock it behind New Game Plus. But you know what the sad thing is? People are still going to pay for the New Game Plus. People are going to get the better edition because they don't want to play the game without New Game Plus. But some people can't afford it. Some people don't want to pay that extra $15 or whatever it is for the Ultimate Edition. Why are you doing this? It's not hard to include it in the base game. And I think Sega is very butthurt. It's not the actual company that makes these games is called Ryuga Gotoku. Translation, like a dragon. That's what the company is called. They're owned by Sega, so Sega has the say in what they do. So people are putting the blame on the main studio or the company, but it's really Sega that is whipping this poor company into doing stuff they probably don't want to do, which is making New Game Plus DLC. But the average consumer is just going to pay the extra money, which is $85 by the way. Isn't that crazy? We pay $85 for games now. You know why? Because they're greedy about shit like that. It's a sad thing to say. Not a lot of people want to pay $85 for that. Do I want to? No. So I'm really hoping and praying they get their shit fixed. And yeah, that's kind of all my rant has to do or has to say. I'm very disappointed in Sega. They make great games, but they're not very good at handling their franchises in some ways. And yeah, that's about it. So if you have any thoughts on the video or stuff like that, go ahead and leave a comment below. If I could make another video like this, then I would be fine with doing that. It's I haven't been keeping track of the time, but it's probably well over 30 minutes long. Um, that's about it. That's all I have to say. So thank you if you've watched all of it. I really appreciate it. I hope it was interesting for anyone that has or hasn't played the series. This is just insight onto what I think is the best. And if you really want to take this as a ranking, then you could look at it this way. From left to right, that's kind of what I think is better, and whatever's above is better. So like this would be the best, this would be the worst, right? So that's not entirely, there's complications with that ranking system, but just besides that, this is what my thoughts are on the Yakuza series, and yeah, thank you for watching. See you guys.